Bruh, skibbity pop pop, and a poom 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 poom. Today, we're gonna show you how to be man's not hot. Good afternoon, morning, and welcome to Turbo Tortoise Tech. If you're new here, I'm Reese of the 4-piece variety, or Triple XL. And today, I'm gonna be showing you with a very old entry-level graphics card and with my 2070 Super, how to do some maintenance on your GPU, how to open it up safely, remove all of the little connections and stuff with the fans and LEDs, and then replace your thermal paste and all the things you need to watch out for on the way, how to clean it, and everything in between. So without further ado, we're going to jump straight into the top-down view. Okay, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of the situation over here. So I've got the old GTX 660, which is going to be our old GPU. You can see it's a little bit weathered, it's a bit dirty, it's been around for a while, and it's done a really good job of surviving as long as it has, to be honest. And then we have my current like production PC GPU in the 2070 Super. So this is a lot more modern. It's what, now 2 generations old. This card I think is only even like 2 years and change old. But unfortunately, because of the African heat, the thermal paste is noticeably dry on this. The temperatures and stuff are like 10% higher on average than what they should be. So it is time for me to do a little bit of maintenance on it as well. So don't stress about that. But what are you going to need to do the job properly? Well, you're only going to need a few things. One of them being this sort of set of screwdrivers. Like if I just hold that up to the camera over there, you just want to get yourself a decent set of like electrical screwdrivers. These are really handy to have, especially in the different sizes, because there are a lot of really small screws. If I just bring this up to the camera, there we go. You can see there's 4 small screws on the back of the graphics card over there. And so you don't really want to strip the heads of those by using too big of a screwdriver. So just be aware of that. You are going to need a smaller screwdriver, smaller star. Better yet is if you have a set than you've got for each like particular size. All right. These aren't too expensive. You can find them. I bought this at a normal like IT repair shop, like just in the middle of shopping center. So you will be able to find these quite readily like there, or just go to a hardware store. Pick yourself up a set of those. Those are really handy to have. A decent paintbrush, just a decent clean like normal paintbrush, nothing out of the norm. This is just a nice soft bristled paintbrush. You don't really want to get like one with hard bristles, because then it could bash and damage stuff. So just be aware of that. And then some half decent thermal paste. In this case, it's just some Deep Cool Z10. Just a pretty, these are like under $100 a tube, but they have quite a lot of density to them, so they do quite a good job of that. And then toilet paper. This is actually the best stuff for cleaning off thermal paste in general, off of dyes and stuff. I find toilet paper lifts it pretty much the best. And yeah, don't get that thermal paste on your clothing, because then that's rip whatever you're wearing. Alrighty, so let's start off with the baby GPU over here. I've already done this card's thermal paste, but I just want to show you how easy it is to remove on a card that doesn't have VRAM and stuff, or VRAM cooling. This really only became a demand once graphics card reached like a 10 series point. So even if you've got a 1060, that'll probably have like VRAM cooling. Some of the 9th gen stuff like 970s, GTX 970s and stuff will also have that video memory cooling. So you can see the chips on the back over here. They are on the back and the front of this board, for instance. Let me just take it off. And it's really easy for this. It's literally just 4 screws, and then the whole cooler detaches over there. Then to detach it further, you then could disconnect over here. Let me just get that up in camera over there for you. So you can see that there's a cable that then connects for the fan over there, and you have your actual die for your GPU over there, and then obviously the cooling surface. Now you see only the only portion of the cooling surface that's making contact is that actual part of the cooler. So this is like incredibly easy to do. I mean, these are like as easy to do as falling out of a boat in choppy water, because there's no thermal pads. There's absolutely nothing for you to worry about. It's just 4 screws. Now something quite important though, when you do put it back, besides making sure your cables and everything are in the right place, is the pressure plate, like how you reattach this properly. Okay, so you're going to put it down so that it is in position, and then you're going to start off with any set of crossed corners. I generally start top left like this from where I'm sitting, and then I will do this one first and get that screw to start attaching. Now don't screw it in all the way. Just so that it's starting to attach like that, then I'm going to do the one on the bottom right over there across from it. So I've started on that one, then I'm going to start on this one over here. Okay, and the purpose of doing this is to make sure that you get a nice flush flat mount. You want to screw that in about halfway and then continue with this one over here until it's tight like that, and then finish up this one over here until it's tight. And it's just finger tight. You don't have to screw it to absolute death. These little screws, for instance, I don't know if you can see them there, but they do have little springs inside of them to keep the tension so that they won't rattle loose and stuff during use, etc. Then from there, so I tighten this one fully first, then this one fully second, then you go to the one across from that next, and then you're going to tighten that one in fully, and then you tighten in the last one fully, and then your plate should be nice and flat. And there you go, one freshly applied, cleaned, thermal pasted entry-level GPU. You can easily tell, like, if you're going to have to deal with VRAM cooling just by the side profile. You can see there's a gap there between the actual heatsink and the graphics card. So it's not making contact anywhere else but on the dial of the GPU. So it's very easy to discern that, oh, this doesn't have actual contact on the VRAM, so there's no thermal pads or anything to faff with over there. So works out quite nicely, very easy, straightforward. All the GPUs work great for that. Now, however, we move on to our fat boy 2070 Super. And the 2070 Super, on the other hand, is very noticeably VRAM cooled. If I just hold it up there to the camera on the side profile, you can see almost all of the heatsink is making contact with the graphics card. So there are going to be a number of thermal pads underneath here, as well as extra cables for the RGB and the LED. So because this RGB is on this side, let me just, get that back in view. So this, I know, has RGB inside of it. So I'm going to have an extra cable there to deal with, more than likely. And I don't think I'm going to need to remove the backplate on this GPU to get everything sorted. It does look like it's got a couple that do go through, which I can kind of spot by looking through the side like this. I'll have to see as I go along, but exactly the same as the older GPU. There's always going to be 4 mounting points over there for where the heatsink does make contact with it. So let me get the sucker opened up, and I'll give you step by step as I'm busy going through it. So we're going to start off with the 4 corners over here. Alrighty, so immediately I'm noticing now along the back, let me just get that in frame, hold it up to camera there. At the back, I can actually see some of the screws obviously going from the back plate into the PCB over there, or into the back of the heatsink. So it means that all of the screws now are probably going to have to come out. So it's going to take a minute or 2, but let's get it open. Oh my word, that is an insane amount of moisture. Alright, so removing the back plate, I already noticed a bit of a problem here. They've used thermal pads on the back plate over there, so it was sticking. These have become moist from like humidity and stuff, and you can see, if I hold this up actually nicely for you, you should be able to see. I'll get the light just right, there we go. You can see all the moisture that's sitting around the graphics card over there. That is not ideal. So we're gonna start cleaning that up with a little bit of the toilet paper. Now it's very, very, very important that when you're doing this, you be extremely careful, because you see all of those, the graphics card is loose now from the back plate, so I better actually start holding it by the cooler like this a bit better. There we go. I'm struggling to get it in the camera. You see all those little connections and stuff on the back there? All those little ICs and all those little capacitors and stuff. If you nick one of those off, it's probably by my GPU. So be very gentle while you're busy doing this.
6.5 hours later.
Okay, now I'm a lot happier.
with the state of play of that, because I've gotten most of the moisture off. All the dust and dirt and hair and grime and everything that was in there is gone, so chances of that causing shorts, etc., is going to be much better. To do it like with some precision, just take the toilet paper and wrap it around your finger, kind of like something like, I'm trying to just one end, there we go, something like that, and then just get in there like to clean, you know, between this sort of stuff with your finger like that. Make sure, yeah, we don't bash any of those ICs. But now we're gonna have to take off the whole GPU and expose the front, and this is where I think things are about to get very interesting, because I really don't want to break one is bend the PCB, and two is I really don't want to tear any of the VRAM chips. I think I've gotten all of the necessary screws off. It did seem to be giving me some pliable leeway towards the front. There it goes. Oh, that was a little bit faster than I would have liked. Okay, so this one is a little bit hot, like I said, a lot harder than the other one, because firstly I'm going to need to just sort of balance this guy like that and get this guy out over here. There it goes, just like that. And then there are 3 connections at the bottom over here. Oh, that's pretty cool that these have gaming X on them. Pretty something you generally never see. This isn't even that dry. I'm impressed. This thermal paste is not done too badly. It is a little bit on the crusty side, but jeepers, that's actually not the worst condition I've ever seen. And this thing's been worked and then reworked and then worked some more. So yeah, this poor graphics card has literally set records and been overclocked through its face. So yeah, I'm impressed that it's actually still okay. Let me just get these back chips off while trying not to ruin the really nice thermal pads over there. We can turn this sideways. Actually even lie it down here next to the graphics card. Perfect. Now we can get in at these connections. There's one. There goes 2. And this one does have a clip on it. It doesn't appear to have a clip on it. There we go. And there goes 3. And there we go. This is the actual GPU. This is what makes the graphics over here. The rest is literally just cooling. I mean, have you ever seen something like that? I mean, it's literally, it always blows my mind. It's just a PCB, man, that's going on. But you see all of these little chips behind you, they all have cooling. That all has cooling. So you can see the thermal pads now on the inside of the cooler. If I hold that up for you guys nicely over there, just like that, you can actually see all those thermal pads that I was talking about. And replacing those and cutting new ones and stuff is an absolute mission. So you want to avoid tearing that where possible. You can wipe them lightly with your paintbrush and with your toilet paper, but that's about it. Because if you do anything more, they're just going to tear, and then you've got to go and order some online and cut them to size, and absolute mission. So try to avoid tearing or breaking those. So now I'm going to go in through the rest of the inside over here with my toilet paper and my paintbrush and clean it up. Alright, one thing I'm doing here, and I want to draw your attention to, is I'm kind of polishing the surface of this, right? Because the cleaner this is and the flatter it is, the more sort of polished it is, the better the performance. While you're in here, if you are a bit more of an advanced child, what you could do is get like 1000 sandpaper or something even finer, and you could actually lap this surface. This one is extremely smooth under contact. I can feel, like, especially where the contact area is, it's incredibly smooth. The last thing I want to touch it with though is my finger. So if you have touched it with your finger like I just did there, you want to then re-wipe it before you get ready to apply thermal paste. And generally what I do is I apply thermal paste to the die area actually. So put this guy over to the side. Now the die is this piece here in the middle. So this is actually the brain. This is actually the processor itself that's doing all of your graphics for you. The rest is support components for power and memory, etc., and then connections. So that is the most important piece of the GPU, and what actually makes your heat. So don't worry about the thermal paste being off the edge of the die. You're going to see now after I clean it what it looks like, and I'll hold it up to the camera so that you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. But this surface here is like the most important to get clean. Let's just make sure we are clear. There we go. These are actually manufactured by NVIDIA and then given over to like the board partners and stuff like MSI, if you're wondering. So that's why it's got the NVIDIA logo and stuff on there, because that's how they actually resell their cores. They resell these cores to the manufacturers on trays, who then put them in. So it's kind of like how Intel sells a chip and then they make the motherboard. They just kind of giving you, well, they are giving you a complete product in this instance. So that's nice and clean now. It feels really good and smooth as well, so I'm quite happy with that. Then just give it the last little wipe to make sure all the oily fingerprints and rubbish are not in there. Now I'm not worried about the rest of that stuff around the side of the die, because it's non-conductive and non-corrosive, so it's not really going to do anything to it. And there's the inherent problem of all those tiny little chips around the edge of the actual die. If I get the lighting and stuff correct over there, then you can see it. So yeah, there's all those little ICs and stuff around the edge of the die. We don't really want to bump any of those and scratch them, because then that's going to be a ripped GPU. But from here, it's real easy. Just do a little bit of a touch up here and there. That discoloring is kind of cool. I don't know why that would happen, but this graphics card, I've generally kept it in a pretty good condition. It hasn't, it's been abused physically from a overclocking standpoint, but I haven't abused it by putting it into bad environments. So it's generally pretty clean. I mean, you can see I don't have too much dust and stuff to clean up. So the last thing to do now is get a nice big blob of the good stuff in the middle. You don't really want to undershoot it either. You want to kind of make a nice big fat blobber in the middle like that. Good thermal pastes are a little bit thicker. If it's kind of watery, it's probably not the greatest quality. And you want to do about a pea-sized blob in the middle. So if I can just hold it up to camera and you can see there, about a pea-sized blob right in the middle of the die like that, okay? Then when you put the cooler down, it's going to press down and spread all of that around. But the heat causing area is generally in the center of the chip like that. Now, we put our cooler back on, which we're going to do in 2 stages. So we're going to first, exactly the same way as we took it off, we're just going to lie this guy next to it, or have it even on your side like that, and then connect these up first. Oh, I've got some thermal paste on my finger. I don't really want to get that in there. Give me one sec. Alrighty. Then we're going to connect the 3 side connections first. A bit of a slip there, almost bunged it up. It's going well. It's going well, if you're wondering. I don't struggle with these finicky connections at all, he said sarcastically. I think this was the best, was when it was laying down next to it. Yeah, it gives me ample space to get that in. 1, 2, and this third little guy. Let's make sure we've got the correct orientation. Most of these are keyed, so they can only go in one way. So just don't stress about that too much. Usually they won't go in the other way. They'll even stop at the top of the slot. They actually won't even be able to slide into the connecting area if you've got it in the wrong orientation. And there we go. Making sure those are connected properly, that they are all the way down as they should be. There we go. And then we need to connect that one over there before we then close the cooler on top of the thing. And there
it sits. All the screw holes are lined up. You can see that from the top like that. The thermal paste isn't going to have pressure applied to it until I put on the relevant backplate screws. So I actually suggest you start from there. You get everything lined up like that, put the backplate on, and then actually start from the four corners when you put it back on to make sure that that pressure plate is done correctly, because this pressure plate actually can be put on by itself. I can actually, now that I look at it, I can actually even put these in first and then do the remainder. So I'm going to do exactly that to make sure that that thermal paste is touching the way I want it to. Okay, so once again, what you can do is just get each one of them to start screwing in and then go 1, 2, 3, 4. It just always has to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So first corner, second adjacent or across, third adjacent, fourth across, again like that. Okay. Alrighty. Now backplate is really easy. Just put it in the correct orientation, of course, and screw it on.
A few inches later.
Alrighty, at some point during the final stages of that, my camera battery decided to die. So we're back, and the card is completely back together. It's got a couple, I mean, I've been using it on the test bench in other areas for about 3 years. So it has got a scratch or two on it here and there. But there we go. One completely closed card. Now we're going to throw it back in to my machine and see if the temperatures have improved.
Alrighty, now let's talk about the performance results. So from the first run I did with Firestrike stability test to the last run I did, there's a considerable difference. Not just in temperature and clock speed and performance, but in fan curve even as well. The fans, everything is just working better because the thermal paste is fresher. It wasn't actually that dry inside of the 2070 Super. That was something that kind of surprised me, that even after all this time and me driving that thing as hard as humanly possible, it still was pretty fresh inside. But now it's just that much better, and the stability of that clock, I think we can all agree, improved significantly. I do have some challenges with this case as well, which I'm kind of identified. Push-pull, even as good as the fans I have on here, I mean, these are all Fantex, like really high-end 5-year warranty fans. I've got fractals on the front, so I didn't put in rubbish. I put in the correct high pressure fans, etc. for this application, and high airflows for the outtake, and it still does get a bit warm in there for the GPU. So I definitely have to do some reconfiguration of my system. I'm probably going to have to change case entirely in order to do that, but yeah, for the time being, we can already see though that this does make a significant improvement, and especially on graphics cards that are really old, where you open up and it's going to be dry and crusty like this was when I first opened it. That's going to make a massive difference. You could probably look at 10 to 15 degrees. As far as thermal paste goes, I suggest Deep Cooler Cooler Master. Spend $100 on a 5-gram tube, about that sort of price, even about like $150 if you want something a little bit fancier. It's going to make like a 2 to 3 degree difference. Nothing to write home about, but yeah, over really budget like watery rubbish, you are gonna see a difference. Just get something semi-decent. You don't have to buy the best of the best. You don't need liquid metal or cryonaut to get some good stable performance out of your products. Anywho, I hope you guys have enjoyed that. It's the first of our tutorial series, and we're doing more as we go along. So if you want to see more, if there's anything you want to understand about a PC or any help you need, just hit me up in the comments down below and I'll schedule and get that content out to you. Until then, hope you guys stay safe, keep well, and I will see you on the flip side.